Admiral Wu Jin Kang stood on the bridge of Bastion 7, staring at the display screen before him. The screen showed 200 red dots moving closer to the Terran border. Each dot was a warship from the Vakrian Galactic Empire. The Empire ruled over 40,000 star systems. They were the most powerful force in the known galaxy. Or at least, they thought they were. Wu Jin had served in the Terran border fleet for 30 years. He had gray hair now, and lines on his face from years of service. But his eyes were sharp, and his mind was sharper. He watched the red dots approach, and felt no fear. He felt only cold determination. Captain Hana Lee walked up beside him. She commanded the TCS Indomitable, the largest ship in the border fleet. Hana was young for a captain, only 35 years old, but she had earned her position through skill and courage. Her dark eyes reflected the glow of the display screens. "They are sending a message, Admiral," Hana said quietly. Wu Jin nodded. "Put it through." The screen changed. A tall alien appeared. His skin was purple and covered in scales. His eyes were yellow and cold. This was General Zelmoth, commander of the Vakrian fleet. Behind him, Wu Jin could see rows of alien officers on a massive bridge. "I am General Zelmoth of the Vakrian Empire," the alien said. His voice was deep and filled with arrogance. "I speak for Emperor Tholvex himself. You humans will lower your defenses immediately. You will submit to imperial rule. Your species is young and primitive. You achieved faster than light. Travel only 300 years ago. The Empire has existed for 10,000 years. You cannot stand against us." Wu Jin kept his face blank. Beside him, Lieutenant Ji-Hae Park worked at her tactical station. She was monitoring the positions of all enemy ships. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls. "The Empire offers you a choice," Zelmoth continued. "Submit peacefully, and you will be allowed to exist under our protection. Resist, and you will be destroyed. We have 200 warships. You have 12. The outcome is certain." Wu Jin looked at Hana. She met his eyes and gave a small nod. They had prepared for this moment for years. Every officer in the Terran fleet knew what to do. "Commander Taemin Cho," Wu Jin said calmly. "Send our response." Taemin was the intelligence officer. He sat at a station nearby, wearing his gray uniform. He typed quickly and then looked up. "Response ready." "Admiral, send it," Wu Jin ordered. The message went out across space. It was simple and direct. "Terran Command does not recognize imperial authority over human space. You are ordered to turn back immediately. Cross the border and you will be fired upon. This is your only warning." On the screen, General Zelmoth's face twisted with anger. Then he laughed. It was a harsh, mocking sound. "You dare threaten us? You insects? Very well. When your worlds burn, remember that you chose this fate." The connection ended. The screen went dark for a moment, then returned to showing the 200 red dots. They were still coming. They did not slow down. They did not turn back. "They are crossing the border now," Ji-Hae reported. Her voice was steady, but Wu Jin could hear the tension underneath. Wu Jin touched the communication panel on his command chair. His voice went out to every ship in the Terran fleet. "All ships, this is Admiral Kang. Execute Protocol Sentinel. Show them why we built this border. Show them why we have been waiting." Captain Hana Lee returned to her ship. The Indomitable powered up its weapons systems. Around the border, 11 other Terran warships did the same. They were smaller than the Empire's ships. The Empire's fleet looked overwhelming on the sensors. But numbers did not tell the whole story. Lieutenant Dae Hyun Kim sat at the helm of the Indomitable. He was the best pilot in the fleet. His hands rested lightly on the controls, ready to move the massive ship at a moment's notice. "Captain, weapons are ready," Ji-Hae said. She had transferred to the Indomitable. "For this battle," Hana nodded. She looked at the forward view screen. Space looked peaceful. Stars shone in the darkness. But she knew that in moments, this sector would become a battlefield. The Vakrian fleet spread out as it crossed the border. They formed a wide attack formation. They were confident. They had every reason to be confident. Their fleet was massive. Their ships were armed with plasma cannons and missile systems. They had conquered hundreds of worlds with this kind of force, but they did not know about human technology. They did not know what humanity had built during 3 centuries of isolation. While the Empire spread across the galaxy, humanity had stayed home. They had focused on one thing: defending their worlds. They had spent 200 years developing weapons. They had built defenses that no other species had imagined. Enemy fleet is in position, Jihei announced. They are powering weapons. Hana took a deep breath. This was the moment. Everything came down to this. Activate the gravity wells. Across the border zone, hidden platforms switched on. They had been waiting in the darkness of space for decades. Now, they woke up. They generated massive gravitational fields that twisted space itself. The Vakrian ships suddenly found themselves unable to maneuver properly. Their formation broke apart as ships struggled against the invisible forces pulling at them. Fire, Hana ordered. The Indomitable's main weapons launched. They were not plasma or missiles. They were something else, something the Empire had never seen. Antimatter warheads, wrapped in magnetic containment fields. The Terrans called them sunbreakers. When they hit, they released energy equal to a small star. The first salvo hit 3 Vakrian ships. The ships did not explode. They simply ceased to exist. One moment, they were there. The next moment, there was only light and radiation. General Zelmoth stared at his display in shock. 3 of his ships had vanished. Just gone. The sensors showed massive energy readings where they had been. The power levels were impossible. No weapon in the galaxy could produce that much energy in a single shot. All ships, evasive maneuvers, he shouted. Return fire. But his ships could not move properly. The gravity wells held them in place like insects in a web. The Vakrian fleet tried to break free. Their engines burned at maximum power. Some ships managed to move a little. Most could not move at all. The Terran ships, however, moved perfectly. They glided through the gravity fields, as if they did not exist. The Indomitable swept forward, its weapons firing again and again. Each shot destroyed a Vakrian warship completely. There were no explosions, no debris, just light and then emptiness. Aboard the Indomitable, Lieutenant Dae-hyun Kim guided the ship through the battle with expert precision. His fingers danced across the controls. The massive warship moved like a fighter craft, dodging the few enemy shots that came its way. 15 enemy ships destroyed, Jihei reported. She watched her tactical display with professional calm. 20. 25. Captain Hana Lee kept her expression neutral. Inside, she felt a grim satisfaction. The Empire had threatened her people. They had demanded submission. Now, they would learn what humanity was capable of. Continue firing, she ordered. Focus on their command ships. The other Terran vessels joined the attack. The TCS Resolute, the TCS Defender, the TCS Guardian. All 12 ships moved through the battle space like apex predators. The Vakrian fleet tried to fight back. Their plasma weapons fired wildly. Most shots missed. The few that hit the Terran ships did little damage. Human armor was too strong. Back on Bastion 7, Admiral Wu Jin watched the battle unfold. He felt no joy in the destruction. War was never something to celebrate, but he felt no regret either. His duty was to protect humanity. The Empire had forced this confrontation. Sir, the enemy is attempting to retreat, Taemin reported from his station. Wu Jin nodded. Let them go. Deactivate the gravity wells on their escape route. We have made our point. The order went out. The gravity fields shifted. A corridor opened in the invisible net. The surviving Vakrian ships rushed toward it desperately. They left their dead behind and fled as fast as their engines could carry them. General Zelmoth felt shame burn through him as his ship retreated. He had lost 80 ships. 80! Against only 12 enemy vessels. It was impossible. It was humiliating. The Emperor would be furious. The Terran fleet did not pursue. They held their position at the border and watched the Empire's ships flee. When the last red dot disappeared from the sensors, Admiral Wu Jin opened a channel to all Terran forces. "Well done," he said simply. "Return to standard patrol positions. The border remains secure." Across human space, people celebrated. News of the victory spread quickly. The mighty Vakrian Empire had been defeated. Humanity had defended its borders. The species that the galaxy thought was weak and primitive had proven otherwise. But in the halls of Terran Command Headquarters, the leaders knew this was only the beginning. Dr. Su Jin Yoon stood in a research facility deep underground. She was the chief scientist of Terran weapons development. Around her, dozens of engineers worked on new projects. The Sunbreaker weapons had worked perfectly, but Sujin was already thinking about what would come next. "The Empire will not stop," she said to her assistant. "They will come back with more ships. We need to be ready." Her assistant nodded. "What do you recommend?" "Doctor," Sujin looked at the designs on her computer screen. "We need something bigger. Something that can protect multiple systems at once. I have some ideas." In the diplomatic quarter of Earth's capital city, news of the battle reached every alien embassy. The representatives of dozens of species watched recordings of the fight. They saw the Terran ships move through space with impossible grace. They saw the weapons that could destroy entire warships in single shots. They saw an Empire fleet run away in terror. The galaxy had thought humanity was young and weak. They had been wrong. Very wrong. Ambassador Tholvex himself watched the battle recordings in his private chambers. He was an old Vakrian, with scales that had turned dark gray with age. He had served the Empire for 200 years. He had seen many species conquered. He had delivered many ultimatums. All of them had resulted in submission. Until now, he composed a message to the Emperor. It was a difficult message to write. No ambassador wanted to report failure. But Tholvex was too experienced to lie or make excuses. "Your Majesty," he wrote, "humanity is not what we believed. Their technology exceeds ours in several critical areas. Their weapons are devastating. Their defenses are impenetrable. I recommend we reconsider our approach to this species." The Emperor's response came quickly. It was only 3 words. "Unacceptable. Prepare. Invasion." Tholvex felt his heart sink. The Emperor did not understand. Humanity could not be conquered by force. But the Emperor would not listen. He was too proud. Too used to getting his way. Captain Hana Lee returned to Bastion 7 after the battle. Her ship had taken minor damage from a few lucky enemy hits. Nothing serious. The repair crews would have it fixed in days. She met with Admiral Wu Jin in his office. The room was simple and functional. A desk, some chairs, a view screen showing the stars beyond the station. "You performed well, Captain," Wu Jin said. "Your crew fought with precision and discipline." "Thank you, Admiral," Hana replied. "But I do not think this is over." "No," Wu Jin agreed. "It is not. The Empire has never been defeated before. They will not accept this loss. They will come back. Targes. Empire. Dodd. Empire. How long do we have?" Wu Jin looked at the stars outside his window. "Months, perhaps. Maybe a year. They will need time to assemble a larger force. When they come again, it will be with everything they have." Hana straightened her shoulders. "Then we will be ready, Admiral." "Yes," Wu Jin said quietly. "We will be ready. We have been preparing for this for 200 years. Let them bring their fleets. Let them bring their armies. The border will hold. Throughout human space, the military mobilized. Reserves were called up, shipyards worked around the clock building new vessels. Weapons factories increased production. Every human world prepared for war. The message from Terran Command went out to all citizens. The Empire has tested us and failed. They will try again. We will be ready. We will defend our homes. We will defend our freedom. The line has been drawn. They cannot cross it. Fleet Admiral Hyun Sik Nam stood in the command center deep beneath Earth's surface. He was the supreme commander of all Terran space forces. Around him, hundreds of officers worked at their stations. Giant screens showed every human system, every fleet position, every defensive installation. "Report," he said calmly. Commander Yuna Bay stepped forward. She was the chief communications officer for Terran High Command. Her face was serious. "Admiral, our intelligence networks have confirmed it. The Empire is assembling an armada. Current estimates put the force at 2,000 warships. 2,000. The number hung in the air. It was 10 times larger than the force they had defeated before. It was the largest military fleet ever assembled in galactic history. "When will they arrive?" Hyunsik asked. 3 months, sir. They are gathering ships from across the Empire. Every subject species is being forced to contribute vessels. Hyunsik nodded slowly. He had expected this. The Empire could not let their defeat stand. They had to prove their power. They had to show the galaxy that no one could defy them. "Very well," he said. "Activate the curtain. It is time to show them what we have really built." Far out in space, Captain Jinwoo Song guided his ship through the darkness. The TCS Phantom was a stealth reconnaissance vessel. It was small, fast, and nearly invisible to sensors. Jinwoo had been watching the Empire's fleet assembly for weeks. He saw the massive gathering of ships at the staging area near the Vakrian home system. There were cruisers, battleships, carriers, and dreadnoughts. Ships from a dozen different species, all pressed into Imperial service. The fleet was so large that it would take hours just to count all the vessels. Jinwoo recorded everything: ship types, weapons configurations, fleet organization. All the data went back to Terran Command through encrypted channels. Knowledge was power, and humanity needed every advantage. "They are moving," his sensor officer reported. "The fleet is departing the staging area." Jinwoo watched the massive armada begin its journey. 2,000 ships moving as one. It was an impressive sight. Terrifying, even. But Jinwoo had seen what Terran weapons could do. He had confidence in his people. "Follow them," he ordered. "Stay hidden. Keep transmitting data." Back on Earth, Colonel Eun-ji Shin prepared her special operations teams. She commanded the Terran Marine Special Operations Division. Her soldiers were the best of the best. They trained for every scenario, including boarding enemy ships during battle. "Listen up," she told her assembled officers. "When that Empire fleet arrives, we are not just going to destroy them. We are going to capture some of their ships. We need intelligence. We need to understand their technology, their tactics, their weaknesses." The officers nodded. They knew the mission would be dangerous. Boarding an enemy ship during combat was always risky. But they were ready. 3 months passed. The Empire's armada crossed into human-monitored space. They moved slowly, maintaining tight formation. They had learned from their last defeat. This time, they would be careful. This time, they would overwhelm the humans with pure numbers. Admiral Hyun-sik watched the fleet approach on his displays. He looked calm, but his mind was racing through calculations and strategies. Beside him, Yuna Bay coordinated communications between all Terran forces. "They are entering the exclusion zone," she reported. "Activate the curtain," Hyun-sik ordered. Across thousands of cubic light-years of space, hidden platforms woke up. Humanity had spent decades building this defensive network. While the Empire spread their forces thin across the galaxy, humans had concentrated on making their borders absolutely impenetrable. The platforms were small, automated, and incredibly numerous. There were tens of thousands of them, scattered throughout the border region. Each one carried weapons. Each one had artificial intelligence capable of independent targeting and firing. Together, they formed an invisible net of death. The Vakrian armada detected nothing until it was too late. The first wave of attacks came from every direction at once. Missiles, energy beams, kinetic projectiles. The automated platforms fired in perfect coordination. They targeted engines, weapons, command centers. They knew exactly where to hit. Ships began dying by the dozens. Then by the hundreds. The Empire's fleet tried to return fire, but they could not find targets. The platforms were too small, too scattered, too numerous. Every time they destroyed one platform, 10 more fired on them from different angles. Impossible! The Vakrian fleet commander screamed on his bridge. There are too many. How did they build so many? Captain Hana Lee, now promoted to Commodore, led a squadron of Terran warships through the battle. The Indomitable and her escorts moved through the chaos, adding their firepower to the automated defenses. They hunted the Empire's command ships, cutting the head off the enemy formation. Lieutenant Dae Hyun Kim flew the Indomitable with the same skill he had shown in the first battle. Enemy fire filled the space around them, but he dodged every shot. Ji-hae Park coordinated targeting from her station, directing fire to maximum effect. Enemy carrier ahead, Ji-hae announced. It is launching fighter craft. Destroy it, Commodore Lee ordered. The Indomitable's main weapon fired. The Sunbreaker warhead hit the carrier dead center. The massive ship, and all its fighters, vanished in a flash of light. Colonel Yoon Ji-shin and her Marines launched from their assault ships. Once inside, the Marines fought their way through the ships, capturing crew members and stealing data from computer systems. Yoon Ji led one team personally. They boarded a Vakrian cruiser that had been disabled by weapons fire. The alien crew tried to resist, but human combat armor was too strong. The Marines moved through the ship like unstoppable machines. Bridge secured, Yoon-ji reported over her radio. Downloading their computer core now. Copy that, Colonel, came the response from command. The battle raged for 6 hours. When it finally ended, the results were devastating for the Empire. 1,200 ships destroyed or disabled. Only 800 escaped. And the Empire had not destroyed a single Terran vessel. Admiral Hyun-sik reviewed the battle reports with satisfaction. The curtain had worked even better than expected. The automated defense network had proven its worth. But more importantly, Colonel Shin's teams had captured valuable intelligence. What did we learn? He asked Yunabe. She brought up files on the main screen. Their technology is actually quite primitive, Admiral. They rely on numbers and intimidation more than innovation. Their ships are large but inefficient. Their weapons are powerful but inaccurate. Most importantly, we have confirmed what we suspected. The Empire rules through fear, not loyalty. Explain, Hyun-sik said. Most of the species in their fleet do not want to be there. They are forced to serve. The captured crew members have been very willing to talk. They hate the Vakrians. They have been waiting for someone to stand up to the Empire. Hyun-sik felt a plan forming in his mind. The Empire was not as united as they appeared. There were cracks in their foundation. Humanity could exploit those cracks. Send a message to all the species we captured, he ordered. Tell them they are free to go. Give them their ships back. But first, tell them what we are offering. Protection, alliance, freedom from the Empire. Yunabaya smiled. Yes, Admiral. Throughout the galaxy, word spread of humanity's second victory. The Empire had sent their greatest fleet, and it had been crushed. The humans had barely taken any losses. Species that had been conquered long ago began to whisper to each other. Maybe the Empire was not invincible. Maybe there was hope. Director Sung-ho Choi sat in his office overlooking Earth's capital city. He was the head of the Terran diplomatic corps. For the past week, his office had been flooded with secret messages, They came from dozens of alien species across the galaxy. All of them asked the same thing. Could humanity help them? He looked at the latest message on his screen. It was from the Taurians, a species of peaceful traders who had been conquered by the Empire 50 years ago. They wanted to meet. They wanted to talk about freedom. Sung-Ho touched his communication panel. Send for Ambassador He-Rin Zhang. Tell her I have a mission for her. He-Rin arrived within the hour. She was young for an ambassador, only 40 years old. But she had a gift for understanding alien cultures and building trust. She had negotiated trade agreements with 6 different species before the war began. Director, she said, entering his office. He-Rin, I need you to do something difficult, Sung-Ho said. I need you to visit the Taurian Republic. They have secretly requested a meeting. They want to discuss leaving the Empire. He-Rin's eyes widened. That would be an act of rebellion. The Empire would destroy them. Yes. Sung-Ho agreed. Unless we protect them. That is what I want you to offer. Our protection. Our alliance. Our support against imperial retaliation. This is more than just diplomacy, He-Rin said slowly. This is encouraging revolution. Sung-Ho leaned back in his chair. The Empire rules through fear and force. They conquer peaceful species and turn them into servants. For 10,000 years, no one has been strong enough to stop them. Now we are. We can change the galaxy, He-Rin. We can give these species their freedom back. He-Rin nodded. When do I leave? Tomorrow. Commodore Lee will escort you with the Indomitable and a squadron. We are not taking chances with your safety. The next day, a small diplomatic fleet departed Earth. The Indomitable led the way, with 4 other warships following. In the middle of the formation was a diplomatic vessel carrying Ambassador He-Rin and her staff. The journey took 2 weeks. When they arrived at the Taurian homeworld, they were greeted with nervous anticipation. The Taurian leaders met them in secret, in an underground facility hidden from Imperial sensors. Thank you for coming, the Taurian Prime Minister said. He was a tall, thin alien, with blue skin and large eyes. We have waited so long for this moment. Tell me what you need, He-Rin said gently. Freedom, the Prime Minister said simply. We want to leave the Empire, but if we do, they will send fleets to punish us. We cannot fight them alone. We need help. He-Rin opened her datapad. The Terran Confederacy is prepared to offer you a defensive pact. If you declare independence, we will station ships in your system. We will help you build defenses. If the Empire attacks, we will fight alongside you. The Taurian leaders looked at each other. Hope and fear mixed on their faces. What do you want in return? One of them asked. Friendship, He-Rin said. Trade. Cultural exchange. We do not want to rule you. We want you to be free and safe. That is all. 2 days later, the Taurian Republic declared its independence from the Vakrian Empire. Within hours, Terran warships took up positions around their home world. The Empire sent angry messages demanding the Taurians submit again. The Taurians refused. The Empire sent a fleet of 100 ships to force the Taurians back into line. The fleet never reached the Taurian homeworld. It encountered the Terran Defense Squadron and was destroyed. Only 20 ships escaped to carry word back to the Emperor. News spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The Taurians were free. The Empire had tried to punish them and failed. Humanity had protected them. Within a month, 6 more species contacted Terran Command. They all wanted the same thing: freedom and protection. Director Sung-Ho worked day and night, coordinating diplomatic missions. Ambassador He-Rin traveled from world to world, meeting with leaders, offering hope. Prime Counselor Mi Young-han addressed the Terran High Council on Earth. She was the elected leader of the Terran Confederacy. She stood before the assembled representatives and spoke with quiet authority. We did not seek this war, she said. We only wanted to be left alone. But the Empire forced this confrontation. Now we have a choice: We can simply defend our borders and ignore the rest of the galaxy. Or, we can help those who cannot help themselves. I believe we have a moral duty to offer protection to any species brave enough to stand up to the Empire. The Council voted. The result was overwhelming. Humanity would help any species that wanted to leave the Empire. They would form a new alliance. They would call it the Free Worlds Coalition. The Empire realized too late what was happening. Their territory began to crack. Species they had ruled for centuries suddenly declared independence. And every time they sent fleets to punish the rebels, Terran warships appeared to defend them. Emperor Tholvex raged in his palace. He ordered his generals to crush the rebellion. He ordered assassins to kill the human leaders. He ordered his propaganda ministers to tell his people that humanity was the real threat to galactic peace. The assassination attempt on Prime Counselor Mi Young failed spectacularly. The assassins never even got close. Terran security detected them at the spaceport and captured them without incident. The would-be killers were returned to the Empire in a gesture of contempt. "Tell your emperor," Mi Young said to the captured assassins before they were sent back, "that he cannot kill what he cannot reach. Tell him that the age of empires is ending." Commodore Hana Lee spent months escorting refugee fleets to Terran-protected space. Species that had lived under Imperial rule for generations now fled to freedom. Her ships protected them from Imperial patrols. Her crew worked alongside aliens from a dozen different species, building trust and friendship. One day, as she watched a refugee transport dock at a space station, Lieutenant Jihei Park approached her. "Commodore, do you think we are doing the right thing?" Jihei asked. Hana looked at the refugees streaming off the transport. Families, children, old and young, together. They looked tired, but their eyes held hope. "Yes," Hana said quietly. "The Empire took their freedom. We are giving it back. If that is not right, then nothing is." Back on Earth, intelligence reports came in daily. The Empire was fracturing. 20 species had declared independence. 30 more were considering it. Imperial fleets were stretched thin trying to maintain control. The Emperor was losing his grip on power. Director Sung Ho met with his staff to review the situation. "How many species have joined the Free Worlds Coalition?" he asked. 18 so far, one of his aides reported. "Another dozen are in negotiations. The Empire is collapsing faster than we predicted." Sung Ho nodded slowly. "Make sure our fleets are positioned to protect them all. This is working because we are keeping our promises. Every species that trusts us must be defended." In the Imperial capital, the Emperor's advisors argued about what to do. Some wanted to negotiate with humanity. Others wanted to launch an all-out assault. The Emperor himself seemed paralyzed by indecision. "How did this happen?" he demanded. "We are the greatest empire in the galaxy. How are we being defeated by one species?" His chief advisor spoke carefully. "Your Majesty, they are not defeating us through military force alone. They are offering something we never offered. Freedom. Our subject species are choosing to leave because they were never truly loyal. They were only afraid." The Emperor struck the advisor across the face. "We rule through strength. That is how it has always been." But in his heart, the Emperor knew the truth. His empire was dying, and there was nothing he could do to stop it. Fleet Admiral Wu Jin Kang stood on the bridge of his flagship, looking at the strategic display. The map showed the entire galaxy. Red zones marked Imperial territory. Blue zones marked the Free Worlds Coalition. 6 months ago, the map had been almost entirely red. Now it was half blue and growing. He had been promoted to Supreme Marshal of the Free Worlds Defense Force. It was a title he had never wanted. But the coalition needed unified military leadership. The member species had chosen him because they trusted humanity. Because humanity had kept every promise. "Marshal, we are receiving reports from the Kelvari sector," his communications officer reported. "The Imperial garrison has surrendered without a fight. The local population is celebrating." Wu Jin nodded. It was happening everywhere. Imperial forces were giving up. They could see their empire crumbling. Many of them no longer believed in the cause. Why fight and die for an emperor who ruled through fear? On Earth, President Taeyong Park prepared for the most important meeting of his life. He had been elected 6 months ago, during the height of the war. Now he faced a choice that would define humanity's future. The former Emperor Tholvex had requested a personal meeting. The Emperor's power was broken. His territory had shrunk to just his home system and a handful of loyal worlds. The rest of his empire had declared independence or joined the coalition. He had no choice but to seek peace. President Park's advisors were divided. Some wanted to refuse the meeting. Others wanted to demand the Emperor's surrender and trial for war crimes. "We will meet," he said firmly. "We will hear what he has to say. And then, we will show him mercy." "Mercy?" one advisor said in shock. "After everything the Empire has done?" "Yes, mercy," Park replied. "Because that is what separates us from them. They ruled through fear. We will build peace through understanding. The galaxy is watching. We must show them a better way." The meeting took place on a neutral space station. President Park arrived with a small escort. General Yuna Bay, now commander of Joint Alien-Human Military Operations, accompanied him. So did Ambassador He Rin Jiang, who had become famous across the galaxy for her diplomatic work. The former emperor arrived with only 2 guards. He looked old and tired. The proud, arrogant ruler who had threatened humanity was gone. In his place was a defeated leader facing the end of his reign. They sat across from each other in a simple conference room. For a long moment, neither spoke. "You have won," the emperor finally said. His voice was quiet. "My empire is destroyed. My people are scattered. I have come to ask for terms." President Park leaned forward. "We do not want your empire, Emperor. We never did. We only wanted to be left alone. You forced this war. But we do not seek revenge." The emperor looked surprised. "What do you want then?" "Peace," Park said simply. "Complete dissolution of what remains of your empire. Recognition of independence for all species. A mutual, non-aggression treaty. Democratic reforms on your home world. And a promise. Never again will you try to rule others through force." "And if I refuse?" the emperor asked. General Yuna spoke up. "Then, the Free Worlds Coalition will remove you from power and impose these terms anyway. But, we would prefer you agree voluntarily. It will make the transition easier for your people." The emperor sat in silence for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. "I agree to your terms. But I have one question. Why show me mercy? I threatened your people. I sent fleets to destroy you. Why not destroy me in return?" Ambassador He Rin answered. "Because that is not who we are. We believe that peace must be built on forgiveness, not revenge. We want a galaxy where all species can live in freedom. That includes yours." The treaty was signed 3 days later. The Vakrian Empire officially dissolved. The remaining imperial worlds became independent democracies. The emperor himself retired from public life, living quietly on his home world under coalition protection. Across the galaxy, celebration erupted. Species that had been conquered for centuries were finally free. The Free Worlds Coalition announced the formation of a new galactic council. Every species would have an equal voice. Decisions would be made democratically. Humanity would serve as mediators and protectors, but not rulers. Supreme Marshal Wu Jin oversaw the decommissioning of the Imperial war fleets. Thousands of ships were dismantled or converted to civilian use. The weapons that had terrorized the galaxy for millennia were destroyed. In their place, the coalition built defensive networks to protect all member worlds. Captain Jin Wu Song's stealth ship, the Phantom, was one of the vessels that monitored the decommissioning. He watched as the massive Imperial dreadnoughts were taken apart, piece by piece. It was the end of an era. Hard to believe it is over, his censor officer said. Jinwoo shook his head. It is not over. It is just beginning. Now comes the hard part. Building something better. The Galactic Council held its first meeting on a neutral world. Representatives from 150 species gathered together. It was the most diverse assembly in galactic history. Species that had been enemies for centuries sat side by side. Ambassador Heerin was chosen to address the council. She stood before them, feeling the weight of the moment. This was what they had fought for. This was why so many had sacrificed so much. We stand at a turning point, she said. Her voice was clear and strong. For 10,000 years, this galaxy was ruled by an empire that took freedom from others. Today, we begin something new. A council where every voice matters. A galaxy where no species rules over another. She paused, looking at the assembled representatives. Humanity did not seek to rule you. We sought only to be left alone. You forced us to show our strength. We did. But strength without wisdom is just tyranny. So now, let us show you what else we can do. Let us show you what peace can achieve. Let us build a galaxy where our children can live without fear, where species can trade freely, share knowledge, and grow together. The council erupted in applause. It came from dozens of different species, different hands, claws, and appendages making noise in different ways. But all of it meant the same thing. Hope. On Earth, Dr. Sujin Yoon stood in her research facility. The weapons development programs were being shut down. Her team was transitioning to peaceful research. They would study new propulsion systems, medical technology, environmental restoration. The tools of war were becoming tools of progress. It feels strange, she said to her assistant. We spent 200 years preparing for war. Now we have to learn how to prepare for peace. Her assistant smiled. We will figure it out, Doctor. If we can build weapons that defeated an empire, we can build technologies that help the galaxy thrive. Commodore Hana Lee returned to Earth for the first time in a year. She had been traveling the galaxy, helping new coalition members establish their defenses. She was tired, but satisfied. The work was far from over, but the worst was behind them. She met with Admiral Wu Jin in his office. He looked older now. The stress of commanding the coalition forces had aged him, but his eyes were still sharp. Sit, Commodore, he said warmly. You have done excellent work. Thank you, Admiral. Or should I say Marshal? Wu Jin smiled. Just call me Wu Jin. We have been through too much for formality. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, looking out at the stars. Do you think it will last? Hana asked. This peace we have built? I do not know, Wu Jin admitted. Peace is harder to maintain than war. There will be challenges, disagreements, maybe even conflicts. But we have given the galaxy something it never had before, a choice. Species can choose freedom over submission. They can choose cooperation over conquest. That is worth fighting to protect. Hana nodded. Then we will protect it, for as long as it takes. The Terran border, once a wall of defiance, was now an open gateway. Ships from 100 worlds passed through freely. Traders, diplomats, students, families. The border stations that had been built for war now served as welcome centers and trade hubs. Lieutenant Dae Hyun Kim, now promoted to commander, piloted merchant vessels through the border region. He had retired from military service and become a civilian pilot. He preferred it this way, flying without weapons, carrying cargo instead of soldiers, building instead of destroying. President Tae-Young Park gave his final address of the year. He spoke to all of humanity and to the galaxy beyond. We did not ask for this war. But when it came, we fought. Not for conquest, not for glory, but to defend what we held dear. Our freedom, our sovereignty, our right to exist. We won that fight. But victory alone is not enough. Now, we must win the peace. He looked directly into the camera, his expression serious but hopeful. To all the species of this galaxy, we make this promise. Terran Command will defend any who need defending. We will help any who need help. We will stand against tyranny wherever it rises, but we will never rule you. That is not our way. We believe in freedom. We believe in choice. We believe that every species has the right to determine their own future. End quote. End quote. The border that once prohibited the Empire from crossing now welcomes all who come in peace. Our strength remains. Our vigilance continues. But our hand is extended in friendship to all who will take it. Years later, historians would look back on this moment as the beginning of a new galactic age. The age of the free worlds. An age where species worked together instead of conquering each other, where knowledge was shared instead of hoarded, where peace was built not on fear, but on mutual respect. And at the heart of it all was humanity. The species that had been underestimated. The species that had been threatened with destruction. The species that had shown the galaxy that true strength lies not in the ability to conquer, but in the wisdom to protect and the courage to stand for what is right. The border remained, but it was no longer a wall. It was a promise. A reminder that some lines should never be crossed, and that those who try to cross them would face not just weapons, but something far more powerful. The united will of free peoples, determined to remain free.